Welcome back, kids. This is session 9 of the Martin County Historical Society COVID-19 tour. We're in the midst of a pandemic. We're wearing our face masks. We're social distancing. We're trying to be safe. We're going to go in and see the Kesler Room, which is named in honor of Ray Kesler, former custodian here. And the Kesler Room has all of the Fairmont Railway Motors items. But before we do, there are some things in the hallway here I'd like to show you. This is an example of items from a barber shop. Science Barber Shop is located in downtown Fairmont. Over here is a safe from the Martin County Courthouse. That safe dates back to 1906. Actually, part of the this is very heavy, or else I'm very weak, one of the two. Part of the room it was built in actually had to be built around the safe. The safe was taken out of the courthouse, if you look up here, by a crane when they were putting an elevator in back in the mid-1990s, I believe it was. Over on this side, you'll see some modes of transportation. This is a Wagner Motorcycle from 1912. A very unique and actually valuable display. I had a question about that. Colin asked, can two people ride on it? How fast does it go and does it run on gasoline? I believe two people could ride on it. I have no idea how fast it would go. I don't think it would keep up with today's motorcycles. And yes, it did run on gasoline. You can see the drive was a belt that drove the rear wheel from the engine. I'm not a motorcycle enthusiast, so I'm not sure how that compares to today's motorcycles, but obviously pretty archaic compared to what we have now. Here are some examples of bicycles and a large unicycle. All right, come on into the Kesler Room. The Kesler Room represents the history of Fairmont Railway Motors, which is one of the largest and most significant industries in Martin County's history. And over there are picture albums that represent all the things that were made at Fairmont Railway Motors, from motor cars to just all sorts of different railroad items. All of the other displays are pictures and actual artifacts of things that were made in Fairmont Railway Motors. Cutaway examples of engines. There's a Fairmont engine, one of the very old ones. And actually during World War II, they made equipment for machine guns during the war. And over here are just a number of different examples of cutaway models of engines that were made at Fairmont Railway Motors from its inception back in 1909 up to the current time. In addition to a lot of different pictures. They actually had trucks and automobiles and even buses that would go on the tracks. What they would have is regular tires like they normally would have, but they would also have apparatus that came down so they would go on the tracks. Okay, and probably the most important thing to railroad enthusiasts is our birth record room. And Jim's going to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our birth record room, and it has to do with not the birth of children, but the birth of motor cars. So these records here, this one here is from 1945, and it details what was part of the engine and motor car that was sent to a place in St. Louis, Missouri. So Fairmont Railway Motors made well over 100,000 engines, millions of parts, and they went all over, and this was part of their record keeping system. So what we do is people from all over the country and people from even as far away as the United Kingdom and Australia will ask us for a birth record relating to their car because they want to know, well, for example, this one was painted yellow to begin with. So when they restore them, they want to paint it that same yellow color. They also want to know what sort of special parts it may have had because when they want to put it back together, they want to make it basically look like how it came out of the factory. So yeah, that's one of our big duties here at the Historical Society is answering those requests. And there's people from, like I said, Australia, Canada, all over the United States that ask for these research requests. So yeah, and it's a lot of fun. They're all very enthusiastic and they all have a different story as to how they got into it and how they got their motor cars. So
Now, are all of these containers full of birth records?
for the most part, a lot of these are, like I said, they made well over 100,000, 200,000 different engines. But we also have sales cards, and so if you were looking at, these, if you want to know how many rail cars were sold in San Francisco, California, you could look that up here. So we have a variety of different records. We also have, of course, manuals. If you were looking how to repair your motor car, we might be able to help with that. So a lot of birth records, a lot of manuals, and sales records. So anything relating to railway motors, we try to find for people here in this room.
And we got a little cabinet here that has sales literature and other things relating to Fairmont Railway Motors.
Mm-hmm.
How far back do the oldest cards go? Is it every year?
That's a good question here. Let's pull one down. So this record here is number 1700, and that goes back to 1913. So Railway Motors got its start in the early 1900s. So yeah, you can see here, that's a record that's over 100 years old. This specific one went to Manchester, South Dakota.
All right, very good, Jim. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And this concludes session 9 of our tour. We'll move on to session 10.